61 hours and 98 keywords later, here's what you need to know about ranking on YouTube for 2021. Hey everyone, after a week and a half of taking a deep dive into the YouTube search suggestions box rabbit hole, here I want to share 3 big lessons learned and kind of things that I'm seeing change when it comes to YouTube keyword research and ranking on YouTube. And of course, I'll also go through my process and my 100 keywords, I guess, theory or new way of approaching YouTube content. Although I digress, so let's go ahead and jump straight in to step number 1, which is how the heck do I do keyword research in the first place? I don't use any fancy tools. I know there are a lot of plugins and scraper tools out there, but what I'm about to show you has proven to be the best method over the past 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this. And so number 1, I turn on my VPN because obviously I'm still in the Philippines, so I need to virtually transport myself over to the US so I get the right results. So depending upon the day, I'm doing these searches from Denver, Dallas, Los Angeles, Seattle, and someplace in Florida, Miami or Orlando or something. One of those big cities, right? So depending upon the day, that's where I'm doing these searches from using a VPN. And then number 2, you need to use Firefox private browsing mode. So what I do is once I'm on my VPN, I go to Firefox private browsing, I open up a bunch of different windows, and as I open up those windows, I go to YouTube. Now I can't prove what I'm about to say, but what I like to try and do is get the exact same kind of blank YouTube page when I'm doing this search. And what that tells me is that I'm getting as close to a fresh, clean slate as possible. So if I can see all the same suggested videos and all the same ads at the top, then I know that I'm doing a pretty decent job of getting a nice blank slate. So I have 2 screens. You can only see one right now in the background, but I have 2 screens. So I normally open up a total of 8 to 9 different windows. And then step number 2, I start typing in my initial keyword phrases. And so for this example, we're gonna do pumpkin carving because Halloween just happened and it's a nice, easy example to illustrate one of the later points. And so I go through and I type in all of the initial keywords that I'm looking for, and then I go back and I hit enter as quickly as possible. Now I'm sure there's some of you out there who know how to set up your browser so you can do that search all at once, but here I just click through, and my goal here is to get close to new search results that aren't tainted by any suggestions as much as possible. The reason I go through this is because I really want to make sure I'm seeing actual search results. I don't want any of my search history or cookies influencing what I'm looking at because I really want to take an honest look at what's ranking and what isn't. And if you use something like Google incognito mode, that's actually not going to cut it. In fact, it's pretty much made my $500 Chrome box completely useless to me because incognito mode still seems to be changing the results based upon my previous search history and showing my videos at the top when I know for a fact they aren't. So that's why I use Firefox. Of course, you could use Opera, Microsoft Edge, or what's the other one? Safari for Mac. Whatever you choose, just make sure it's not made by Google. So you're getting those cookies cleared. And then I go ahead and start analyzing not only what the suggestions are, but also analyzing what videos are ranking across multiple terms, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That does it for my entire process. Now, a quick little asterisk here. If you do this correctly, Google's going to start to think that you are a robot. In fact, here's what's happened to me the other day when I was trying to do keyword research for ebooks, and all of a sudden I kept getting hit with CAPTCHA and Kappa or CAPTCHA, I don't know how to say it, but essentially that's where you have to go ahead and start clicking and say, do you see a bus in one of these squares, or do you see motorcycles, do you see, what's the other one, traffic lights or cars or a crosswalk, like whatever it is. And if that starts happening to you over and over again, what I recommend doing is closing everything down and clearing out all of your cookies. And if you're using a VPN, go ahead and switch locations and then try again, and hopefully Google will stop thinking that you are a robot. But I just wanted to add that in because it's kind of funny. You can do this enough where they think you're just some sort of spam scraper tool because all you do is keep going to YouTube and typing in searches, especially if you try and watch. So something else that's very important as you go through this process, do not click on any videos. As soon as you click on one video, even if it's by mistake, you got to start all over again. The search results will change based on that one video click. So make sure it's nice and clean. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, do you seriously do this for all 100, 150 keywords that you're looking for? The answer is yes. Actually, it is. That's why I'm 60 hours in, and I probably have another 10 or 20 to go before I'm done for the year. This is so important. You put in so much time and energy making videos. You might as well put in the time and energy and make sure that you're targeting the right keywords and keywords that you can actually possibly rank for. Now, I'm not going to go into how I specifically evaluate whether or not I can rank for them. I'll link up in the description to a webinar that I did that actually goes through my evaluation process. And yes, there's a product pitch at the end of that. Here, I just want to focus on the research aspect. So based upon the last 61 hours of research, here are the big 3 takeaways I have from how the YouTube algorithm has changed. And for small channels, I'm just going to say it's not good for us. It's good for the end viewer, but it's definitely not good for us. There's a lot less pockets. So number 1, search recommendations have changed across the board. So here's what I mean by search recommendations. I'll do the example here of content marketing. So for me, I know that I want to make videos about content marketing to help you with your content marketing, whether you're doing content marketing here on YouTube or on your blog or elsewhere, right? So I'll go ahead and type in content marketing, and then I want to look at all of the suggested searches. All of those suggested searches represent possible keywords and video ideas that I could go after. So that's level 1. And then level 2, let's say I type in content marketing and I go strategy, and then I wait. Then you're going to get another set of keywords. So that's what I like to call level 2. And so do I go through all of these? Yes, I go through every single one of these that's relevant to you as a fellow entrepreneur and business owner. Now, of course, looking at this list, you'll see a couple here like Content Marketing Institute, Content Marketing Agency, Content Marketing Unlocked. Well, that's not something you and I are actually going to type in when we are trying to figure out how to become better with our content marketing. So those I do skip. I still use some common sense. And when we look at the strategy ones, you'll see that first one is for e-commerce. And then later on, you see content marketing presentation, and then Joe there, who is actually the founder of Content Marketing Institute. So those 3 I actually wouldn't look into because I'm not an e-commerce guy. I'm not Joe. And then the last one, I'm not talking about I'm not trying to rank for people who are looking for a specific presentation. So there is some common sense here, but for the most part, I go through each one and I see, would our ideal viewer be searching for this keyword? And if you've done anything like this in the past, you actually really need to redo it, because I found there has been a drastic change in the search suggestions. And by the way, if you're going for a keyword that's not in a suggested search, then it doesn't actually really matter that you're ranking for it. As an example, I went for time blocking the one thing and time blocking mastery, I think. Those 2 used to be suggested. The past 3 years, those have been one of the top tier 1 or level 1 suggestions. This year, one thing and mastery is no place to be found. So it doesn't matter that my time blocking videos are at the top of those search results pages, because nobody's looking for those anymore because they're not in suggested. You have to remember that most viewers, they're not going to think, oh, I need to type in time blocking the one thing or time blocking mastery. They're going to start just typing in time blocking, and then the suggestions are going to guide them in terms of, do they want a guide? Do they want tips? Do they want to use Google Calendar? And so those are all different clear viewer intentions that I can go after now. But mastery and one thing, if it's not on the list, then it's not a clear user or viewer intention anymore, because Google is following what people are typing in. So if people aren't searching that way anymore, it's not going to show up in the suggested. So definitely go ahead and double check your keyword list if you've already done any. Now, number 2 is going to be say goodbye to synonyms. This is something that really, really helped me in the beginning, and I'm so very sad to see it go. I understand why it's going away, but to illustrate what I mean is, let's go back to our pumpkin example here. So for example, we can go ahead and type in how to carve a pumpkin, how to make a pumpkin for Halloween, create a pumpkin for Halloween, and pumpkin carving tutorial. Now, obviously, whoever's typing this in, they want to learn how to carve a pumpkin for Halloween, right? We're just saying the same end result. They're looking for the same end result, but they're typing it in different ways. Now, in the past, we would see very different search results for each one of these based solely on the keywords, even though they're ultimately looking for the same thing. And what we're seeing now is these search results are a lot more similar than they used to be. As an example, obviously I'm doing keywords not directly related to my content because I've been blatantly copied in the past, so I don't want to make it harder on myself to rank. So in this particular instance, I've seen make and create as those two keywords have been drastically different in the past for video tutorials on how to make XYZ or how to create XYZ. I would see either the search results would be completely different, or I would actually see that the rankings were different. So I knew that I couldn't rank when create was used in the search phrase, but I could rank when make was used in the search phrase. I'm seeing those create, make, and build. They're all coming together now. They're all coming together now. And so there's a lot less opportunity as a small channel to squeeze in and say, you know what, if I just say make or build instead of create or carve, I'm going to be able to rank here. And this is just part of the algorithm getting a whole lot better at understanding people's actual intention and actual behavior and results that they're looking for when they're typing things into a Google search. So I think we're going to continue to see this consolidation. In fact, if we go over to a live example here of the search that I did from the screenshots, you'll see as I scroll down, you'll actually find that there are videos that are still in the top 10 or 12 across all of these. Like as an example, this video right here, you can see that as we scroll down, we can actually see it in other search results where we couldn't see it before. Actually, oh, I'm wrong. It doesn't actually show up in the first one. Oh, that's a different one. I got thrown off because it looks like it's the same channel. So anyway, definitely scrolling down. And as you look at these, you want to be asking why all the time. So in this particular instance, if we're looking at this screenshot, I scroll back to the top. Why is this video, how to carve a pumpkin like a whatever it is, at 2 minutes and 11 seconds, ranking across all of these results? By the way, I just skip all of the ads. So that's why I'm scrolling down here and not looking at the ads. So why is that one showing up across everywhere, whereas let's say one of these other videos is only showing across 2? And that's especially important when you're looking at different words, right? So how to make and how to create, they're very similar. So we can now expect those search results to be pretty similar. But carve and carving tutorial, well, it's still make, create in the context of pumpkin carving is the same, but maybe the algorithm hasn't figured that out yet. And that's why we're seeing carve and make and create have different videos. So we want to ask, well, why does this carving video get to rank on make and create, whereas this other carving video doesn't rank on make and create? So you want to be asking those questions and looking at what's the difference in the thumbnails and what's the difference in the headlines. You can, of course, go ahead and click and get a sense for the content as well. I also like to look at the lengths of the videos and say, well, are these different variations being influenced by the length? Are they being influenced by just simply what's in the title, which is what number 3 I'm going to get to in a moment. So you just want to keep asking why. And then once you're done asking why, you want to go back up to the suggestions box and just click on it. Don't hit space because space will actually change. So just click on it and then wait for it. It might take a little bit to load. And then you can go ahead and start looking for other keyword ideas and other suggested searches and try and begin to group the suggestion searches together. As in, well, you know what, how to make, create, and carve, they're one category. And then ideas and tips is another category. And then tutorial and for beginners is another category. So you want to start grouping them together and figure out which searches are similar in terms of the videos that show up and the order that they show up in. Something else that I've started doing a lot is, of course, also looking at the time. That seems to be making a little bit of a difference as well, because maybe someone who types in the tutorial version is looking for a 30-minute video, where someone who types in tips and tricks is just looking for a 10-minute video, right? So you also want to keep that in mind as well, just going through all of these suggestions. If you're still watching, go ahead and hit that like button. Again, you can check out the link in the description to the webinar that takes a much deeper dive on how I actually determine whether or not to choose a keyword to go after. Here, I'm just showing you how I find the keywords in the first place. So the last thing I want to talk about is the emergence of what I'm going to call secondary keyword or secondary search terms. And as an example, I'm going to use cake. So hopefully you're not hungry, right? So let's say we have 3 different search terms. We have how to bake a cake, cake baking tips, and cake baking 2020. So something that I've noticed in looking at these SERPs, or search engine results pages, for SERP for short, is that I'm finding a lot of the videos are the same across cake, how to bake a cake, tips, and then baking 2020. And in the past, like I've said, they used to have very different search results. Now they seem to be very similar, if not the same. And something that I'm noticing is it comes down to just one word that allows a video to go from how to tips and 2020. In this instance, just including tips somewhere in the title, or just including 2020. Of course, now it's going to be 2021 in the title, allows a video to not only rank for the core search term, which is how to bake a cake, but then when it's tips or tips and tricks, or it's 2020, 21, or 2025, then just simply including that in the title anywhere allows the video to show up. So when you see these long titles and they seem to have 3 or 4 different keywords all over the place, I think that's why people are doing it, because I'm starting to see that actually matters. So as a quick example here, I would make a video title that says how to bake a cake 2020 in parentheses tips and tricks, just so I can get 2020 term in there and tips and tricks in there. Of course, you also want those terms in your description and tags and all the other fun stuff that also matters. But just when you're looking at the titles, I'm starting to see that's making a much bigger difference than it did in the past. So even if the video is from a smaller channel, has significantly less views, if you're a small baking channel and you add cake 2020 or tips in your title, you're probably maybe not going to rank at all for how to bake a cake, because all the big baking channels already have that. But when you add those little secondary terms, you actually have a much better chance of ranking on those longer tail searches. So that does it for the 3 big lessons learned. Hopefully that made sense. As usual, I went ahead and typed it out ahead of time so that hopefully I didn't talk as long as needed, although that still took quite a long time. So now what I want to do is share with you my 100 keywords, I guess, idea or theory. And that is my goal for next year, is to find 100 core keywords that represent our ideal viewer, and then make those our core focus of our content strategy. Now, I want to, of course, add an asterisk here. This only works if you're if you're creating evergreen content. Obviously, if you're the latest news, this kind of strategy won't work. I borrowed this from the 1,000 true fans theory or idea, that you only need 1,000 true fans or 1,000 true customers in order to be successful. Well, here I'm looking at it and saying we have pretty much 50 weeks in the year. The time around Christmas and New Year's, you might as well not post anything. Nobody's really watching. So we'll take those 2 weeks off. You can take a vacation. So we have 50 weeks in a year, and we do at least two to 3 videos a week. So that's where I got 100 keywords from. So we're now really consolidating, looking at what are the 100 most important keywords to our ideal viewer, and we're going to go after those. And that also means we're letting go a lot of the content that I wanted to create and types of content I've made in the past. Now, of course, this may sound silly to you, as in, wait, you're just going to make the same 100 videos year after year? And since you're watching this far, I'm sure you're going to be able to appreciate the answer to this. The answer is yes, because the difference between someone searching for how to set up a Google Ads or YouTube Ads campaign tutorial is almost the same as it is now as it was in 2018 and 2017. And so one of the advantages of going after evergreen style content, of course, assuming that Google and YouTube are still around, when they finally die in, 10 or 15 years, we're going to have a new platform to talk about. But for the time being, we know that those keywords those searches are important to our ideal viewer and our potential ideal customers. And so it just makes sense to continue to go after those. And the reason that it does is you are going to get a whole lot better at explaining those 100 topics. One of the biggest things that burned me out in 2019 was trying to expand All right, there. Speaking of expanding, you're getting a little excited. One of the things that really burned me out that year was trying to over expand our content, and we wound up creating a lot more content, but it wasn't as good. And so one of the reasons I think right now I'm being deranked a lot is because the content isn't up to par. And so if you focus on a core 100, you're going to become a lot better at explaining it. You're going to have more time to create better examples, better graphics, better B-rolls. You're just going to become a lot better at creating those videos because you're doing it at least once or twice, in some instances twice a year. And because you're always bringing a fresh pair of eyes, and you as a creator, business owner, and entrepreneur are of course learning and become better at your craft, your new tips and tricks video or your new master tutorial video that you create each year is going to become better as a result of your experience. And so this is something that I'm definitely going to test out over the next year. So I'm just going to call it a theory. We're going to see how it works, but I think it's going to be something that's going to allow us to be much more streamlined internally because we're focusing on the same content topics over and over again, and we're going to be able to improve the actual output and quality. So we're getting efficiency and effectiveness in terms of the end product. And that does it for my lessons learned, my process, and of course my 100 core keywords theory. So if you're still watching this video, go and hit that like button. I have a bonus just for you for actually sticking around till the end, which is why I did not say anything about this, but I want to show you specifically what my notes look like as I go through this process and give you one more little tip here. So I am going to have to blur out my exact keywords because I don't want to be copied, but I'll leave the secondary terms so you can see how I go through this. So as I go through this process, my goal is to find anywhere from 4, 9, or 12 core keywords for my main content category or content subcategory. And the reason that I go about doing that is because I want to have at least once a quarter or once a month to touch one of the topics that's important. So even though I'm talking about being very, very focused, you definitely want to make sure that you don't get so focused that you pigeonhole yourself into one particular niche or category. As an example of a mistake I've made on this channel is the algorithm has kind of pigeonholed me into things like sales funnels and advertising and YouTube ads and Google ads, which is a good thing. We really, really care about that. And that actually makes up almost half of our content. But the other half of our content, we spread across other categories and topics that I think that we can actually bring value in. That's number one. Of course, it's important you actually have experience in what you're talking about. And then number two, something that we know we want to actually be ranked for and known for. And so going after a particular topic, niche, or industry, thinking about it in terms of 4 or 12, or 9 if you can't get to 12, right? But 12 is once a month you do a video on that topic or niche. Or 4 is once a quarter you do a video on that topic or niche. And so you make sure that you carve out enough time for you to hit all of the categories that are important to you, and you space out your content so you're not making the same topic, over and over and over and over again. For us, I do about 50, I'm going to be doing about 50 videos in the marketing and sales side of things, and then the other 50 videos will be on content marketing, being productive, product creation, all that other fun stuff in running the business. So we're half on what's really important to us, and then the other half we make sure that we're spacing out over the year so that we have a good mix of content and we're not always talking about the same thing over and over again. So this is what I do. In this particular instance, our topic is content marketing. I only was able to come up with 8 keywords, and so 4 are technically in a different content category, but I ran out of unique content marketing keywords that we should go after. And so I kind of had to combine it with another content category, but we have 12 content marketing style videos for next year. So we're doing at least one a month. And so scrolling down here, I have my list of core keywords to go after. Then I have my secondary terms, which means we're going to try and include those terms somewhere in the title for some of the videos. And then what I do is I take a nice screenshot of all of the first 8 or 9 top level suggestions, right? So I just start content marketing and then I go in order of the ones that are relevant, just like I showed you earlier. And then I have this screenshot of all of the suggestions. And then I go one by one and I start doing some sort of analysis, looking at what's the difference between strategy and plan and tutorial and 101. Should we even be going for these keywords anymore? And so I make notes about each one of those. And of course, the ones that I don't think are a good top level search term, I'll cross off. If it looks like it's a secondary one, I might go to level 2 and start doing some more keyword research to try and really group these together and figure out what's a unique term and what's a term that we should just tack on to another video and we have a chance of ranking there. For example, tips and 2021 is, we don't need to make a video specifically content marketing 2021. We can just include the year in another video that we're making. And so I go through this process, making notes about everything. Of course, I clip the URLs of the top videos. So when I go and when I'm actually making content, then I can go and actually look at the top ranking videos and better understand what's the substance of the videos that's doing well for this keyword, what's similar between them, what's different between them, and then how do we bring our own unique edge. And sometimes it turns out like, oh, they're saying the exact same thing we would say. That stinks. And other times we say, oh, you know what? Actually, we can talk about this angle that these other two videos missed, and maybe we have a better chance of being a little more valuable than everyone else. We're not trying to beat everyone. This isn't a fight, right? This is just figuring out what are people looking for when they're typing in that search term, and how can we be just a little more valuable than some of the other videos to our ideal viewer. And that's the great thing. Everyone's different. So you're not trying to steal someone else's audience. Your audience is out there. They want to watch your video and your insights and your styles, even though you're talking about the same topic. And then of course, we just keep going down the rabbit hole. I'll go ahead and stop scrolling here because I think you kind of get the idea. And then I start looking at the individual plan, strategy, hacks, templates, and I say, okay, across all of these, which titles have more? Do they have strategy in the title more? Do they have hacks more in the title? And I start trying to figure out which keyword is the core, which one's important, and which are just kind of secondary or third keyword. So thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope you got some value out of this video. This is exactly what I'm doing to find my 100 keywords. I'm 98 down. I wanted to do the vlog with 100, but you know, those last two are just killing me. Diminishing returns, I guess, but we'll find those final two in the next 2 weeks. So go ahead and hit that like button, comment below with your questions. You can check out that link to the webinar if you want to even deeper dive on how I run this channel in general, and including how to actually choose which keywords, not just do the research. And until the next, keep building the business you love.